Good evening, all. That was a very, very unfortunate moment for it to pause. The close-up you never knew you wanted, you didn't want, and you did really, really didn't need. Good evening, all. Good evening to Shadow Girl, Jadono, Stunner, Ray Louderbeck, John Chavez, Raygun, Stevie Raman. Good to see you all, and yeah, welcome in. Raygun, I was a Lieutenant, Royal Navy. So yeah. Sorry, the Royal Navy bit added to that is reflex. I don't mean to do that. It's just Lieutenant Royal Navy. You know, it's the equivalent of a army captain, basically. I did 12 years and almost 12 years, and then decided to leave to save my marriage. So you can see how well that worked out, right? But yeah, good to see you all. Up and towards the right, to the future. Maybe next time I can do like some sort of a thinking man's pose, like some sort of, or we'll come up with a new one, right? I can always do like a beginning scene thing. Good evening, Pilgrim. Good to see you. Yeah. So a couple things to talk about today. Primarily, it seems to be a good time to talk about Fleet Week. We've got all that stuff kind of happening, and it's about to happen. Rumors abound, lots of stuff kind of about to appear, and things happening. So that's kind of cool. So a couple things to react to there. I want to have a look at the roadmap roundup that's just happened. I want to react to another content creator's video rather positively, but we'll have a chat through those. And then yeah, we'll have a look at a little bit of the news that's happened this week. I don't generally like to give them more time than they need, but we will at some point have a look at we'll have a look at the PC Gamer article, just because it's silly and getting sillier, shall we say. But yeah, we'll give it a go, and we'll see how things work, and yeah, hopefully a good evening. But I hope you've all had a good week. I hope you've all managed to play a little bit. So yeah, I'll look out for the equivalent in the French Navy, your nemesis, huh? Yeah, very possibly. Anvil capital ship, says T-Jack. Yeah, the interestingly named, we'll come on to this in a sec, but the interestingly named Anvil capital ship. I'm going to give up making judgments based on nameless ships, because I genuinely thought that the Misk Fortune was a Mick take, and yeah, shows how much I know, huh? So yeah, that's that. One of the first things I want to do is I want to pop over and I want to see a very, very successful creator in his early days. Jojo TV. He is just starting out, but he is absolutely rocketing, overtaking this channel, and is just on an astronomical path. Very early with all the news and stuff, and he has got his hands on 2 of the data mined audio clips, which will kind of give us a bit of a hint as to what's going on in and around the gaming. Good evening to T-Jack, to Apteryx, to Jag. Good to see you all. Yeah, so you join us just as we take a look at some of the stuff that's going in the Star Citizen universe at the moment. I'm just going to kill the audio from the music so we can hear this properly. This is an audio clip. I'm just going to change you across. This is an audio clip, data mined out of the files. Now, all I will say about this is that there are a number of things, we've data mined stuff in the past that's proven not to be true. So until it's announced, don't ever bank on this stuff. But that being said, let's take a look at the audio file that was leaked. This appears to be the Anvil Asgard.
Deploying the Navy's heavy hitters to where they're needed most requires a heavy-duty transport, like the fleet's latest addition, the Anvil Aerospace Asgard.
That's very interesting.
And that's Jojo coming in at the end there. If you don't know who he is, I'll throw a link up in a little bit. Go check him out. Dude is creating awesome content, and he's got one of those voices that it's just so easy to listen to. Not quite Space Tomato level, but again, just a really easy voice to listen to. So that's cool. Anvil Asgard, and we can jump back and have another listen to that. So let's just listen again. This is what they say about the Anvil Asgard.
Deploying the Navy's heavy hitters to where they're needed most requires a heavy-duty transport, like the fleet's latest addition, the Anvil Asgard.
The Anvil Asgard. So, deploying the fleet's heavy hitters to where they're needed next. And what's interesting here is Jojo kind of goes down the route of this sounds like a Hercules variant, like a dropship, something that's going to be big enough to take things like the Spartan and the Tonk and get them deployed. And obviously, there will be a few more bigger vehicles coming as well. So he's gone down the route of he thinks that this is some sort of dropship vehicle carrier kind of thing that's coming. And what's really interesting, good evening, Shady Face, good to see you, is, and I think Jodomo kind of made reference to this before, and Shadow Girls just hit the nail on the head as well, is that it's interesting that we've decided to go for the idea of vehicles. Ground vehicles, because heavy hitters doesn't necessarily mean that. So that was an interesting thing to hear. And I think what you guys are saying, may be right. It would make sense at the moment, and kind of be in keeping with the sort of things that we've seen being released at the moment, that it would be a space to ground transport for things like the tank and the Spartan, especially seeing as there aren't a lot of transports in that niche. We've got the Liberator coming, but that's not. You got the Liberator, which can do that. You got the Ironclad that can do that, but it's not here yet. You've got the Hercules at the moment, which seems to be the primary way of kicking this thing around, and a couple more imaginative ways of moving them. But that's it, pretty much. But the wording of that is quite interesting, and it doesn't seem to rule out the idea of a carrier. Now, are we getting carriers? Are we getting anything like that? Something in the same vein as maybe the Liberator, but more carrier focused, so more about sustained air ops than just I can launch something from it. I don't know. So, and something a lot more militarized, obviously, than the Liberator, because the Liberator is not, designed for fleet actions, whereas that, making specific reference in one sentence to the Navy and delivering heavy hitters, possibly, I don't know. It would be really good to see that sort of stuff starting to come, but then again, part of me wonders whether this is the right time for it. If that is the way it's going, because we know that 1.0 is going to be 5 systems, it's an interesting one. So I'm going to do what I've started doing for a little while now. I'm going to offer it up to you guys and see what you think. Asgard, carrier or not? I know I should have said, and I normally say this, so I do apologise. If I've spoilt it for anyone, I'm sorry. I'm normally pretty good at getting into the spoilers and saying, hey, we're going to talk about stuff that's not been released yet, so if you don't want to know, So if I have, I'm sorry, I should have said it. It's going to be the first 30 minutes or so of the show. So I'm sorry, but that's where we are. Come back at about 25 to, and we'll hopefully have finished speaking spoilers. So I'm going to go Asgard. In fact, I'm going to go, what is it? Okay. So I'm going to give you guys the options. Okay. So we're going to go for carrier. We're going to go for ground vehicle transport. Okay. And then I'm going to give you something else. And if you click something else, that's fine. But tell me what you think it is. Or even if you go, I don't think it was either of those things, but it's not. Okay, so we're going to whack that up and see where that lands. The only thing at the moment is that the polls seem to work a little bit weirdly, because I hit end poll and then it takes about 5 minutes for it to work, and we know that's not the bandwidth thing anymore, huzzah, because I have now confirmed that we can work on ultra low latency streams, and that's very, very exciting. Right. Am I blurry to you guys? I've just noticed the screen might be a little bit mucky. So if you excuse me, I'm just going to dab your face like Mummy did when you used to, eat ice cream and get it all over yourself. So give me a second. And knock my phone over at the same time. There we go. Okay, so hopefully, if there was a blur, I haven't made it worse. But there we are. There we go. I'll be Mummy, shall I? Fabulous. Right, so yeah. Good evening to Babble Boom. First time I've seen you in for a while. Hero Brine. I know that reference because I've been playing that all damn weekend. Can, good evening. Good to see you, buddy. So yes, let's have a look. T-Jack says, to be honest, I was thinking a cracking competitor. Hero Brine says, are we getting stable service this time? Absolutely not. No. So that. So Apteric says, CIG may have failed to read the room again. If this treads on the toes of the Liberator and they put out something else. Neil B says, good evening, Neil. Heavy hitters could also refer to large weapon systems. Absolutely. Asgard is where the Valkyrie live. This is true. So it could be, I suppose, an amphibious, or the space equivalent of an amphibious transport ship, right? Something like the Iwo Jima class, back when they were a thing in the US Navy, the Albin class here in the UK. So yeah, interesting. The Liberator is as a large, its bigger brother was always going to be a capital. This is true. Carrying a paladin is a big ask. That's a Connie MSR pad. That's kind of excessive potentially. So yeah. Charlie McCawsome says, I'll be the odd man out. Because CIG needs a development package for large ships from Anvil, the Asgard will be a Valkyrie or slightly larger, say Star Lancer size for vehicles. Hope I'm wrong. Absolutely. Put dropship as a vote option also. Yeah, I mean, possibly. So, I didn't, unfortunately. I didn't see that in time, Shadowgal. I do apologise. But yes, dropship. If you think it's a dropship, just throw one in chat and that'll be that. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. I don't know whether you were talking about me, Charlie, or the stream in general, but cheers, bud. Either way, do you know what? I'm going to take that as I'm beautiful. It's the beard. That's what it is. It needs a trim. It's getting unruly. It's getting itchy. If you've got a beard, you know what I mean. It's just getting to the point where it's like, just want to, but no one else wants to see that, so it's fine. So yeah, spoiler warnings in a live stream are meaningless for anyone joining after it, lol. You'll need like a warning symbol reading spoilers somewhere. You're not wrong, Babbleboom. However, my defense to that is going to be, rather selfishly, join from the beginning. And I know like people have got real life and they forget, and they've got other things to do, and maybe they've just found it. It's fine. I get it. But yeah, you're entirely correct. But for some reason, I still feel compelled to do it anyway. So, maybe I'll get out of the habit, maybe I won't. My guess, heavy transport designed to carry one, maybe two large ground vehicles, not meant to encroach on the Hercules or Liberator. Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that it's interesting, isn't it? We've got the Liberator, we've got the Hercules. It's interesting that people seem to be more worried about it stepping on the toes of the Liberator than maybe the Hercules, which is interesting, because they already sell 3 different Hercules, right? So yeah, an interesting one. Would love it to be a carrier, says Pilgrim, but I'm more inclined to be a dropship for Titan. Ooh, I like. And Titans, and yeah, I see where you're going with that. Very nice. So yeah. One tonk, says Charlie McCaution. I'm excited for Gilly to return. Turns out he's not voiced by Keanu Reeves, but damn, it sounded just like it in those videos. Gilly, sorry. Oh, yes. Sorry, derp. I'm with you. Honestly, I can see this being a direct competitor for the Ironclad Assault, as there was a rumour CIG was caught off guard as to how well it sold. Yeah, the Ironclad did really, really well. It was quite quite an interesting moment for CIG. I think that was a big spike in their funding. Good evening, Rash. Good to see you. And Truth Seeker. Good number as well. Like that. Good to see you. Let's not forget the sound bites from a few years ago. Anvil met with that one military base that's known for making some of the largest ships in the verse, including the Bengal characters. So there's carrier, so there's that. Absolutely. I can't remember, T-Jack. You're going to have to remind me what those sound bites were. Did they actually make it into the game or not? Was that a thing? I cannot recall for the life of me. Carrier for all the fighters that Anvil makes said it will have to be a capital ship, as they already have the Liberator as a large ship, shipping ship. And the auto talks heavy hitters. Yeah. So what are... because the Retaliator is Aegis? Right? I think it's Aegis. But yeah. Truth Seeker says, a carrier which is javelin sized and well armed and armoured, that would be something. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I can just foresee all of the very, very angry kind of news headlines if they release something that is priced in the same. Can you imagine that? CIG releases second $3,000 ship. People are going to lose their shit, TM. But yeah, I can swear. There's no ads for this, so there shouldn't be any ads, and if YouTube are putting them on, I'm going to be very angry. So yeah, I can swear. It's fine. Okay. If it's a carrier, I'd say size 3 to carry the Eclipse, as it's too big for all the existing moving ships. Yeah, potentially. Can it even land sideways on the Liberator and take up like multiple pads? I don't think it can it? It's an awkward shape. The Delta Wings are just awkward. AV says, hoping for something between a Herc and the Liberator, but better armour and guns. Yep, potentially. The reason people mention the Liberator is that it would piss off all the people who've already backed it and are still waiting. You're right. Yeah, that's absolutely part of it. I want to be really mean here and kind of say, I've been saying it's not a carrier for years since it revealed itself, but that's not fair. And actually, it would be, yeah. I suppose if they can show why it's different to the Liberator, I still think if we get a carrier that can carry more ships, that has more functionality than the Liberator and all that sort of stuff, that gives you a really good idea of where it's going to be priced. Even if it's a large, if it's carrying more people, carrying more ships, more functionality, that tells you price-wise where it's going to sit. The other side of it is that I've lost completely where I was going with that. That was going to be a really good point as well. That was going to be like earth-shatteringly awesome. I feel like I'm losing my mind. But yeah, I think if they can show that it's different, that's the main thing. I think the Liberator's still going to have a place in the verse. Right, because the bigger the ships, as people are beginning to realise now with the Polaris and the missiles and the repair costs and everything else, the bigger you are exponentially, the more it's going to cost for that ship to be running game, through fuel costs and repair costs and rearm costs and just having people do things with it and the simpleness of getting around on board, and everything taking more time because it's Star Citizen, everything takes time. So yeah, I think the Liberator's genuinely still going to have a role in the verse, so I wouldn't be sweating it if I was a Liberator owner. Also, if I'm a Liberator owner, you have my permission to take me around the back and shoot me. So there's that. CIG have said Liberator is the small carrier and the Kraken large, so the carrier would be Polaris sized. But would this be big enough to deploy naval heavy hitters? Exactly that. This is where potentially something like, and I know it's not the same, but like the idea of the Idris with the through deck, they come into the back, they launch out the front, like the Bengal but smaller, that would help with that because it makes it so much easier to do. But interesting, kind of like the tubes on the Galactica, that sort of stuff. Would be neat if the ships ends up having an Asgard reference to Stargate, says Boom. Yep, potentially. you know, we've already seen that they are not. Sorry, I've just punched my mic, so you just got that in your ear holes, in your earballs. Yeah, it's, you know, they've shown that they're not shy. The entire interior of the Reclaimer was basically an homage to the Nostromo, which is the mining industrial mining ship in Alien, right? So they were right off the bat like, yeah, hey, we're blatantly ripping this off. The MSR being their homage to the Falcon, you know. I wouldn't put it past anything. Or past CIG. It's the Killian reference, and it was in game, but Killian is just capital shipyards for the military, not necessarily massive. I think CIG's had enough of committing to the insane capital promises now. A 3K ship will still sell well, says socially. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, that after they've shown the functionality of like base building and all that sort of stuff, that the Pioneer and the rework of the Pioneer's selling exceptionally well. It always sold out because it was a whole limited ship, but it seems to be. I've heard people saying even more that you know, they're selling out extra quick now that that's happened. So yeah, in theory, maybe you could land the Eclipse 90 degrees out on the Liberator, but it causes problems with spawning the ship. Yeah, absolutely. As you move instance to instance. Absolutely. Yes, I agree, Rash, 100%. The Liberator is a transport ship, not a carrier. Why not the combat variant of a Liberator? Possibly socially. I mean, I've done the Liberator to not a carrier thing so many times. Is that the whole point of a carrier is, you know, let's put it back to real world. Frigates can carry helicopters. Destroyers can carry helicopters. Amphibious assault ships can carry multiple helicopters, both attack variant and thing. We've even got helicopter carriers. The whole point of an aircraft carrier is sustained air operations, right? If you've got one helo, some of the American ones even take two, right? Some of they're like the Aegis, I think, or the Ali Backs. You can fit two on. But the idea that you can constantly keep you can keep combat air patrol up over a fleet, that's a carrier. The Liberator clearly doesn't fit to that function because it doesn't have the crew to do that. It doesn't have the space for both the crew to run the Liberator and the crews to keep the aircraft up and the people to refuel it, even if you're using the air crew to do that. Sustained ops clearly aren't going to work, and that's why I say the Liberator is not a carrier, it's a shipping ship. It's a transport. When you're driving down the highway or the motorway, whichever country you live in, and there is an articulated lorry with a bunch of cars on 2 floors on that trailer, that's a Liberator. Not designed for instant deployment, takes some time to, you know, fix it out. If you've got something in the middle of the hangar section and you've got something on the pad outside and you've got something behind it, it's going to take a while to maneuver it around and get that thing out. Whereas carriers are a lot more, they can have a lot more on deck, they can have up top, they can have a lot more in their central hangar space. They're just, it's different ways of going about it. But that's the military background in me. That doesn't for a second mean that games companies have to apply to that. They'll just get a lot of raised eyebrows because I think even kind of enthusiasts and people who have played any sort of naval warfare game with carriers in it will go, yeah, it's not really a carrier. But there's that. I saw a little while, you remember like in D&D you've got the lawful, neutral, evil. Oh, so you've got the good, neutral, evil, and then you've got the kind of chaotic and all that sort of stuff. I saw that with carriers. It's basically if you can put a ship on it, it's a carrier, all the way through to the purest of the, you know, if it's not called a carrier, it's not a carrier. We'll see. But yeah, sorry, catching up with where we are. So Alex Moore, good evening. Hi, good to see you. I'm thinking more like an Anvil M2 potentially. Charlie McCorsom says a heavy hitter for Anvil is the Hurricane. It fits on the Liberator and is the smallest heavy fighter. Yeah, potentially. CIG, it's a Liberator, only larger and tougher. Isn't that great? Only $2,000. Stranger things have happened in the macro ship selling space. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah. No way CIG is committing to a Kraken competitor. They don't have the ship dev team to add to that to the to-do queue. I mean, what's really interesting is how many things that are on there at the minute, and we kind of saw that last week with the progress report. They are working on a crazy amount of ships right now. Like, we kind of, I think it was 10, because you had the Starlance attack for 1, the Apollo and the Perseus for 3. They then talked about 3 ships that were into grey box, I think, or white box, and then they talked about 3 or vehicles. Then they talked about 3 more vehicles bracket ships that were not yet at that stage. So, like, overall, it was 9 or 10 things that they were talking about. Yes, that's right, it was 10, because they were also talking about the Pioneer on top of all that. So it was just like bonkers. You know, they've gone from, I think they were talking a couple of weeks ago, they were down to like 12 or 15 in the ship team. They went up to 27. Whatever they're up to now, they're working on 10 projects concurrently. And those are just the ones that they mentioned in the report. So yeah, they've gone. I think there's some capacity there, absolutely. Guys, you are damaging my fragile nerd ego here. Artemis TGM says it could be a Gazanti patrol ship that can deploy ships. Google it? ? I'm gonna Google it, but I'm not gonna do that. I've been in this game too long. Let's have a look. I shall have a look, but I'm gonna move my phone because it's on my thingy here. So Gazanti patrol ship, because if this is like the fleshy version of a whole Dion Red, oh my god, I wish it would stop doing that. Images, let's have a look. I don't even know, what's that from? Oh, is this Star Wars? Yeah. I'm trying to find a decent image of it that isn't whiting me out quite as much as that. Loading 3D model. Here we go. Sketchfab, apparently. Yeah, that's very blocky for an Aegis ship. But I suppose I'll bring that up just for a second. Let's have a look. Sorry, I've moved everything around and now I can't see what I'm doing. So this is a Gazanti class. I assume that's what you're after, Artemis, yeah? That one? Potentially. Could be something like that, absolutely. Pilgrim says, I'm not sure CIG will release huge capitals comparing the work that has to be done for it and the limited sales and quantities. I think they're more likely to go for medium, large ships and mass sales. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that takes us back to the kind of 10 the 10 ships they've got working, right, is when they did the Drake Golem, which is the new starter ship for, so the Prospector now is not the lowest price you pay for a mining ship. They've got the Drake Golem, which is whatever it is, $55 thing, 1 seat, no real interior to speak of, does the job and then goes home. They talked about doing things like the RSI Salvager, so that's going to happen as well, although not necessarily immediately. So it does sound like, in keeping with what they've said about stability and content with current game loops, rather than getting involved in like trying to do new game loops and then ships being pulled back, Legionnaire is a fantastic example of that, right? The Legionnaire, this time last year, was entering grey box. And it's still not out because we don't have hacking gameplay, so it can't dock to stuff. Especially with the issues with docking as well. That sort of thing. I'm going to get rid of that now because I'm just like, completely whited out. There we go. That's better. I don't look quite as pale now. But yeah. Vertical pilot entry, says AV. That's the really interesting thing about the Kingship, was those fighter being on rotating platforms and just being fired off, stacked one above the other. But yeah, I think one of the things that we're seeing now is I think CIG have basically said they've abandoned the vertical docking because of the issues with going from, kind of on one plane to another, potentially. So you imagine you dock to the side of an 890 jump with the top docking hatch of a Constellation. you've got orientation issues there. So I think they've basically gone, we're not going to do that, which I kind of get. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping for a mothership, basically a mix between the Liberator and the Vulcan. Interesting. You should mention mothership. Bear that in mind. We're going to come back to that in a little while. I think we're going to be on this a little longer than 30 minutes because we haven't even gotten to the next piece yet. Main difference, says Rash, between a transport and a carrier would be both can move from A to B. The carrier will have the capacity to repair whatever it transports. Yeah, potentially. I think for me the sustained air ops is the best definition there. But that would certainly be part of it. Absolutely. Shady Face says, well, I want my Spirit of Fire style planetary assault ship. I don't think CIG will make any warships Idris size and up. Corvette seems to be the sweet spot. Asgard will be Corvette size at most. Interesting. Very possible. Rusty Pigeon, good evening, buddy. Good to see you. Sorry that I'm yawning at you. I am trying to stay awake. It's been a long ass weekend. I'm not gonna lie. I had a couple of things to do today, so I've been kind of rushing around. But nice to be relaxed now. Unfortunately, because I'm cycling into work tomorrow morning, I decided not against the alcohol. Because me on a bike is not fun at the best of times. Firebrand, good evening, good to see you. Yeah, so we'll go from there. Can says, how many of them do we figure out are ground vehicles or single seat? Pish again. Don't know. Absolutely don't know. I mean, one of them, it looks like, because we're about to come on to that, it looks like there is another ground vehicle, but with possibly the most interesting... The name hints at the most interesting concept for a ground vehicle since Star Citizen began. Easy. But we'll come on to that in a second. There's a teaser for you right there, right? Okay, so Asgard is the name of the world of the Nordic gods, so it must be something of its size. Planet-sized ship. Yeah, we're back to the Drake Leviathan again, aren't we? Thank you, Shadow, for sending that. I'll have a look in a second. So yeah, I think CIG is focused on new player gameplay to mid-gameplay. They need to get things ready for 1.0 launch. Yeah, I don't think it's any kind of shock that we've only just had our first capital. A lot of that seemed to be linked to the issues in things like server capacity, frame rates, until they got meshing in and working in any sort of capacity. Spawning in huge units like that, because they might not look huge to us, but when you consider how many entities and all the stuff that it does and that it has in it, and how much the server has to do to just keep up with that ship, it just wasn't ever going to happen before server meshing. Not properly. It was really going to struggle. And I think we saw that, right, when they were getting spawned in. Even with meshing, it's been an issue. Exactly that, Bubble Boom. Exactly that. We'll come on to that in just a second. So yeah, could CIG keep a capital secret for the years it would have taken to make? Absolutely not. Someone would have leaked it. Sorry. Also, my first troll post when this releases is you took away my Banu Merchantman for this. Nice, absolutely. Jag Mason, hello, bud. Do you believe the Paladin is coming according to links? Info runners to streets. I don't know. What I will say, so for those that maybe aren't aware or aren't fully aware of what happens, in May or June time we get Fleet Week, which is the game's celebration of military ships. It's a big thing, and there's video about it, and it's supposed to be basically lore-wise. It was when the UAE Navy used to visit different planets and take its recruits off for training. That happened once a year, so their training intake was basically annually. And now, because everyone's able to travel in space and there's no cost prohibitive to it anymore, that doesn't happen. But they still do this thing where fleets visit different systems and it's made into a holiday. And of course, in the real world, it is an excuse for CIG to sell new military ships. That puts a load of different military ships in the running to come. We know that the Legionnaire is close to finish, but it doesn't have the gameplay loop. We know that the Paladin, people are starting to show images of that. We know that they're working on the Apollo, and the Medevac is a more militarized version. Medevac as well is medical evacuation. Those shortened names, that's a very military thing to do, like a sit rep, a situation report. That's a very military thing to do, is shorten words. It's been picked up by a lot of other agencies and a lot of other organisations, but the military have been doing it forever. We've got the Perseus, potentially, you know, all the. I'm not listing what I think is coming at Fleet Week. I'm listing the candidates for what are coming at Fleet Week. The military ships that we know are in the game. We've got the Starlance attack. And you know, there's talk about the QI, whatever it is, that basically the Fat TIE Fighter missile variant. There's talk of that as well. So there's a lot of stuff coming. I don't think it's the Perseus. I'm doubtful whether it's the Paladin. That will be one of the other ships coming. If they're coming, great. That's fantastic. And Fleet Week does make sense. But bearing in mind that the Perseus only went into grey box at the start of last month, and that's a 100-metre ship. So they've got a lot to do to shoehorn it in the next month and a bit. So I'm really not sure. Ironclad as well. Yeah, good shout, Shadow. So yeah, there's a lot. I think. Excuse me. Oh, better. So I think potentially it's going to be a few fighters. The Starlance attack seems to be a really good bet, because looking at what they were saying is it's finishing its final polishing right now, and that was at the beginning of March. So, or that was the March report. So, you know, they've got a full month and a half after that. So the Starlance attack seems to be a good shout. Paladin may well be, and I think given its size, that's probably more reasonable at this stage than the Perseus. And I know that's going to upset people, because everybody wants the Perseus. Lord knows I want the Perseus really, really badly. I want my hands on that ship, but I have a feeling that's going to be the end of the year, just because of the size of it. So yeah, Asgard is a carrier for carriers, says Firebrand, like a spacefaring Russell Dahl ship. That's a mental image I never needed, and I'm not sure. So yeah, Jag, basically Paladin, possibly. It would be nice to think that it is, but I'm not going to hold my breath, but unfortunately. So yeah, I'm just going to move me around a bit, because I don't seem to be in the centre of the screen, but that's a bit weird. Perseus, skip. I'm kidding. Shadow Girl, yeah, I'm going to ban you from the Discord, you monster. What say you on why there's an Idris paint? Interesting. So, there's something about the Idris that people should know. And I know most of you will, but it's worth mentioning it again, right? The Idris is not coming out until until Squadron, right? At the very earliest, possibly afterward, because they've said that they don't want to spoil the Idris ahead of the single player game, which to me indicates that, you know, there'll probably be like the first major patch, the first, 4.2.3, whatever it is, after Squadron will be the release of the Idris. To see it coming this early, I don't know. It doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe sales of the Idris have slowed down somewhat, and they're doing this now as kind of a bit of a prod, a bit of a reminder to people that it exists and it's coming with Squadron, and we only now have a few sales, because it is hull limited, to get hold of it before it's in game. Because there's a couple of things people should know about the really big expensive ships, is that you can't CCU all the way up to them. So yeah. Yeah, so the F7A, F8, yeah, so the F7A, that was absolutely a walk back. The F8 is a different beast entirely, but we'll come on to that in a second if people still want to go back and revisit that can of worms, because it wasn't that it wasn't coming to Squadron, it was that they said that they weren't going to sell it at the time, which was taken to mean they weren't going to sell it. The big thing here, of course, is that the F8 will be available to buy in-game if you achieve certain things through Squadron 42. So, whilst it won't be with insurance, you'll purchase it with in-game money if you unlock it through Squadron. So there's that. Sebastian, good to see you, mate. Welcome in. So, just while we're going to do this, what I'm going to do is I am going to have a look very quickly at the Greycat vehicle bit. And I can't remember in this where they said the audio was. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of Jojo's video, and we're going to have a look at this new vehicle coming from Greycat.
Big thing. The other vehicle mentioned is we have the Greycat MTC, Mobile Tactical Center. Let's go ahead and listen to this audio clip describing that.
Greycat has taken its tough-as-nails know-how and combined it with mil-spec hardware to bring their latest vehicle to the front lines with the MTC, Mobile Tactical Center.
There we go. So I'm not entirely sure.
This, to me, although I know whatever it is probably not going to be as interesting to many as something like the Asgard will be, this is a very interesting thing for exactly the reason Shadow Girl has just said in chat. Greycat is an industrial manufacturer, and they have just said there, bringing things to the front lines in military spec hardware. First of all, for anyone that's military in chat, you know what I'm talking about here. Military spec hardware is not the good thing that people say it is. It normally means, 17,000 moving parts all made by the lowest bidder. So that's not necessarily. I know CIG have got, framing it in a different light, but that's a very interesting statement to make. So I'm just going to go back to that again. Let's have another listen.
Greycat has taken its tough-as-nails know-how and combined it with mil-spec hardware to bring their latest vehicle to the front lines with the MTC, Mobile Tactical Center.
Mobile Tactical Center. Yeah, exactly that, Shady. It looks like, the Greycat are now going into military, just like Crusader did when Crusader was supposed to be this huge philanthropic organization that was all about helping people. Apparently now they're helping people by delivering, very high-powered ordnance right on top of their heads, which is fun. So that. Alex Moore, hello. The only good military spec we had were ACOGs, which are the sights on top of weapons. The rest were rubbish. Military specs can also refer to ruggedized nature, not necessarily weapons. Yeah, absolutely this. I think the Mobile Tactical Center, one of two things, right? I don't even think it's two things. I think it's one thing. Does anyone remember? I'm going to switch back over to full face chat while I find this. Does anyone remember the base building videos from Citizen Con, where they showed off the interface and the everything else, right? That to me, that interface seemed to be. I'm just going to click on it now. Yeah, I thought you might. So what's really interesting about this is the interface that they're using. So I'm just going to jump onto it now, and I've killed the sound. So this is the terminal thing, and this is the view that they have, right? And what's really interesting here is if you can see just about to appear over here, there's a player actually moving around and moving boxes. So as he's mucking around here and building stuff, what they're seeing is actually happening in game. This is rendered in engine. This isn't this isn't an interface with nothing happening. And that makes it really, really interesting from a gameplay perspective. The idea of drones, given everything that's going on in Russia and the Ukraine right now, the ability potentially to sit back as a mobile troop commander and command troops with an aerial view. Some games pulled this off quite well. Natural Selection will be one of them. There was another game, I think it was called Savage, which was good fun, although flawed. It gave the ability of one of you to basically be a real-time strategy commander where you could click and drag or click and order around your real-time players. So you would click and drag a box on the screen which would select the players. You would give an order, and obviously you wouldn't force them to do it. but on their screen there would be a HUD, and then there would be a voiceover like, attack this target, move to this location, scout this. That would be quite good fun in this. And then it opens up all sorts of possibilities. So yeah, that's a potential thing. The mobile tactical command. The only other thing I can think of, given the fact that we saw the combatless, right, the combat atlas, that it might be something to do with that, right? That you could have some sort of recharging, rearming station, if it uses hard rounds for something like that. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I really hope it's not the combatless. That just looks like a kit bash. It looks cheap. It's not what we were after. You think the first time you set into a combat Titan suit, the first time you suit up into it, should be incredible. It should kind of enclose over you. Not quite as cool as Iron Man, but not far off, right? That's what I'm hoping for anyway. And I think it could be that, right? So yeah. Only good thing, yeah, sorry, Alex, we kind of covered that bit, but yes. T-Jack says, the Humvee military spec hardware, I wonder if that was before or after they loaded it down with crap with the Xenon engine in it. Exactly that. Yeah. Google tactical centers in real life, they're typically semi-trucks with comms ability. It's for the police and isn't actually military. In this game, ? Charlie McCawsome says. Yeah, exactly that. Caterpillar has defense division. Yeah. So Argo, the last true industry, only manufacturer until it's not. Yeah, and that's why I really hope the combatless. Madwild, good to see you, buddy. Welcome in. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one as to whether or not that's what we get. What's quite interesting is in the video he goes on to talk about what kind of looked like the Ursa rover, which was the ships that were coming. And I'm going to go back to that in just a second, because of course I've clicked off his video now. But sorry, so the video that I've linked to the audio clip, that is it's JoJo TV. Well worth a look, well worth checking out. But I'm just going to scoot you back over there now, because this is the vehicle that he thought it was, which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, I can almost hear that music from what's it called? From the scene in Aliens, where their Marines are bringing the vehicle in, and then Ripley's trying to get them out in it. I can hear that music as I look at this thing, and I know it's not quite the same, but you get it. Shadow Girl wants a corporate battleship. Absolutely. Like that. Put a railgun on an 890 jump. Manny, good evening. Hello, bud. Silhouette reminds me of the BM-113s. We had command and control and ambulance variants, along with a mortar carrier. Yeah, the 113s were used for so much stuff. Yeah, what is interesting there is it does seem to be a tracked vehicle. I'm just going to grab myself and move myself out of the way to the other side here. And then I'm going to boop. But if you look at the back part of it, just below like the rear, whatever the mud flap, that sort of thing is, it doesn't look like it could be a Titan suit thing, but of course that could be on the other side. It looks to have a turret on the top, 2 size 1s or size 2s at a stretch. I'm guessing size 1s though. But if you look just down, I need to go the other side. No, that way, same side. Under that mud flap, it looks like tracks. Which, it's not the first time, but, because we've got the Tonk. But yeah, interesting. And the Storm. But yeah, looks like a Renault has passed me, says Firebrand. That's not a good thing. Yeah. I'd rather the Anvil Atlas platform be the MTC instead of Greycat. That. Exactly like that. Origin Tron-inspired tank, like it. Even after the M2 and the M3 came into use, M113 was in use for years. You're not wrong. Exactly that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The UK used a lot of used different vehicles in a very similar manner, Manny. So I get exactly what you're talking about. We retrofitted vehicles for years. And there's definitely a use to that. That's why I quite like the idea of the Spartan and the Ballista and the Centurion, is that commonality of parts, as we know from the military, really, really helps out. From a game design or from a game enjoyment perspective, yeah, maybe not so much. But yeah, I'm thinking the MTC will be a mobile version of the hologram pit on the Carrack, allowing commanders to coordinate and direct land, air, and possibly space forces. A combined arms battle sphere. That looks size the Spartan would mean only the Hercules and maybe the Asgard can carry it. Exactly. So this goes then to what it is and what it does. And this is why I took us to that base construction thing, is that I know at the moment drones might seem a little way off, but the Apollo's coming. And base construction is coming. And we know both of them use drones to thingy. Now, obviously, base construction is going to be delayed, not just for all the reasons that CIG normally delay stuff, but also because now they're not focusing on new features this year. The focus is elsewhere. But they absolutely said, and they started to answer questions about drones. So if you don't know, one of the questions was, hey, like the Starlancer builds with drones. What happens if my Starlancer flies off? Like, if I take it to go get more supplies, do the drones stop working? What happens? And they actually had a concrete answer for that, which is the drones will build until they're out of supplies, and then if the drones run out of fuel, or the drones finish and you're not there, the drone basically destructs, and you'll need to repair the ship to get them back. So, like, rearm the ship. So the fact that they're starting to answer drones, maybe, just maybe, that's what this is. I'm not entirely sure what else a mobile tactical centre would be. I'm really not sure. Imagine all the bugs with drones, them getting stuck, not deploying, not returning, yet crashing into stuff, flying into the intakes of larger ships, mowing people down as they fly over objects and stuff. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm hoping for a Hercules competitive, purely speculation though. Yeah, so exactly that. Don't forget the drones slowly rattling, impacting your ship to death as well. This. Absolutely that. Yeah, the Apollo drones are going to be interesting, because I think what we'll probably see is that the stretcher, they carry some form of stretcher, right? So I can't remember if this was Star Wars or not, or something else. It might be Star Trek. Is they've got like basically hover stretchers, and they move people around on them. And that effectively, what would be really cool is you put the casualty onto the stretcher. It then forms some sort of bubble or shield around them that protects them from the atmosphere, so that when the Apollo recovers downed pilots or injured pilots in space, for example, it protects them from the fact that they're in the void of space. But when it brings them back in, it's like, how do you get a drone carrying a casualty? How do you get the person from the drone into the ship and into sickbay? And the easiest answer for me is the stretcher clicks onto some sort of trolley, or it's just some sort of hover trolley that then clicks onto the top of the bed, and there you go. There's your casualty. Rather than pushing them off the bed onto the floor and then picking them up off the floor onto the bed, seems a little bit less, maybe a little bit less casualty care than maybe we would like. Don't forget the drones. Sorry, yeah, I did read that, AV. Yeah. Explosive drones like the Nautilus. Yep, they're going to be the same thing. So the mines from the Nautilus, some of the explosive drones they think will actually be able to track, and some of the mines, or the explosive mines, will be able to kind of move after things. And some of the mines will actually be gun drones. So they'll be like sentry drones in an area, and if you come in, they'll attack you. So yeah. Dell. One of these, I'm going to do it, and I'm only going to tell you. All right, but yes. All right. The message received. Thanks, Dell. Cargo beam drone. Yeah, but yeah, drone beam citizen. That'll be part of the drinking game, I think, for CitizenCon this year. Will be every time they say the word drone. I'm not going to do beam again. Every time we saw a beam, I had to drink. I almost died. But yeah. So that's that. So the two things, or two of the things that we know that are coming, or that we think are coming, Anvil Asgard and the Argo MTC. Yeah, it's this stuff is data mined. None of this is confirmed. I think the big problem with Fleet Week, and we see this every year, is people will convince themselves that something like incredible, like the Perseus, is coming, and we know we know as much as we can know that it's due to come at some point this year. But people go, oh, it's military, it must be coming at Fleet Week, and that's not always the case. So people have to be a little bit careful when it comes to things like this, that they don't sell themselves into a corner, and they get really upset. And it doesn't come. So yeah. Thank you. Shall I go? I'm gonna grab that very quickly. Let's have a look. Can I do a show in browser? No. Save image. Just gonna see if I can save. Can I have that image, please? Can I have that image, please? Can I pet that dog? Right. Bonk. Okay. So this is what the stretcher thing looks like. So this is the RSI stretcher. This is concept art that was released some time ago regarding the Apollo's kind of medical drones. And whether this is the whole drone, whether this is just part of the stretcher, don't know. But that's that. Stunner, I don't think you are joking. I don't think you are. I think you're pretty much bang on. Captain Max says, I've seen a pic of that Apollo stretcher. It's a frame with what appears to be a force field bed the casualty rests on. Pretty convenient for transferring from stretcher to bed. Yeah, exactly that. That's the whole drone. Yeah. It certainly seems that. Either that or it's got some really large engines for a stretcher. But yes, interesting kind of... interesting concept. And it'll be interesting to see how this gets implemented. But... going back to the MTC, Apollo obviously doesn't need the drones for it to work, just like the Carrack doesn't need the drones for it to work. But drones open a lot of interesting doors. The Nautilus, the Vulcan, there are a lot of ships. And someone mentioned the mothership earlier, and I said I was going to come back to that. A drone carrier battleship. You know, I say battleship. A drone carrier ship where it launches combat drones instead of... you know, ship or people controlled drones is an interesting notion. That's somewhere else that they could go as well. Vulcan can't work without drones. No, absolutely it can. But you know, like the Apollo can, the Carrack can. You know, so there's that. Same concept art shows the drone coming into the Apollo from the bottom of the floor, middle of the ship. Yeah, absolutely. Ship. You just made me think of Ender's Game movie, says Rash. Yeah, that. So something along those lines, you know, would be interesting, because electronic warfare takes on a whole new raft of ideas then, because maybe you can jam it, maybe you can interfere with the signal, maybe you can hack them and take them over, you know, individually. That would be a very interesting kind of gameplay loop. So yeah, that's it. That's where it looks like we're going to go with Fleet Week. Is the Paladin coming? Not sure. I would suggest, you know, just by pure virtue of its size and the number of players it requires, and the fact that it's just a ship with guns, again, nothing else required, it's probably more likely than the Perseus. The Perseus is going to be less likely given the size and given where it was on the March monthly report. It's got some way to go. It only just entered grey box, so white box first, grey box second, and then it goes through its other passes and stuff. That's a lot of work to get done in a month and a half, 2 months. So she says, I'm happy that I'll at least get my tech. Yeah, absolutely, and I think there'll be a lot of Star Attack owners happy this Fleet Week. COGs likes to surprise us though, but yeah, absolutely. It might be again like we've seen it with a couple of ships where, was it the Vulture? We got a sneak peek of the Vulture. We got to walk around it before we got the ship. There's plenty of stuff that we might see brought to us. So yeah, downstream teams, says Matt Rash. All the silliness. So yeah, so hopefully, anyone got any questions they want to ask regarding Fleet Week and stuff? And I'm just going to end the poll regarding the Asgard and see what you guys think the Asgard is going to be. Oh, that was much quicker. Ground vehicle transport 39%, carrier 34%, and something else 25%. So it very much looks like it's JoJo TV has kind of called it, that it will be something to take the heavy hitters, as in the ground hitters, from space to ground to do their thing. And that's that. I guess there's a chance of the Perseus exterior Invictus. Yeah, absolutely. Just FYI badges. That's not a medical drone. That's an RSI snowshoe for Microtech. Facts. I bought the pack with the max and attack, but the attack I'm nervous about. Do you think an SCM speed of 135 is just too slow for a dropship? I think potentially for a drop ship, it's not necessarily the speed, it's the acceleration and deceleration. So if you can come in nice and quick and decelerate quickly and be accurate and drop your people off and then get off again and accelerate quickly. Because of course, apart from being there when you're dropping people off, the most vulnerable part for you is going to be on approach, because you kind of need to, come in on a roughly straight line, which means that your trajectory is really easy for people to anticipate and start putting ordnance into. And also, if you're slowing down very slowly coming into that, that's difficult. The 135, it feels low, generally speaking. But again, it's not just a dropship, it's also judging from the position of the size, is it 5s pointing downward, and the fact that the forward part of the crew compartment has 2 Gatlings to come out, just like the Valkyrie does. It looks like it's also trying to do the role of an AC-130, which is interesting. And of course, lots of speed in that scenario is not great. What you need is stability and the ability to hold kind of position over a target. So, yeah. We might see an update on the Perseus, an ISC or something, says Rash. Yeah, very popular. Itakari says, how much hopium do I need to think Ironclad or Invictus? I'd be huffing quite a bit, my friend. We know that Drake is next up after the RSI ships. I think it's more likely then. That's not to say it can't come, but I just think it's probably more likely. It's not in the same vein as the TAC, where we have the Max. We have the Starlancer Max. We don't have anything from the Ironclad based on. So I think it's more likely that Drake ships will be coming next year. Yeah. God, do you know what? I can't wait where I can say, hey, do you remember like years ago when we used to say it was coming next year or the year after that or year after that, and now everything's kind of with us, and yeah, hopefully I'm still alive when that happens, but we'll see, huh? So yeah, I thought the TAC was a patrol ship short of jacket or trades for a planetary militia. Kind of, it's more about dropping. So it's got the drop seats, it's got the guns pointing down, which is more of the kind of AC-130 kind of gunship role. So yeah. This year, Raelian on the Alien Week, 100%, Bubble Boom. I'd love to see another Alien ship come out. They did so well with the Sulen. I'd love to see what they come out with. Oh god. So yeah. AC-130 has one big gun sticking out one side though. Yeah, so it's got the it's got the minigun, the 40mm Bofors, and the 105 howitzer all sticking out one side. Yeah, it can just whinging. So yeah, so that's it. Fleet Week. That's where I'm thinking we are at the minute. And I know that's not a lot of definite answers, but then again, there never are. You know, we've seen stuff being data mined that was blatantly false. We've seen stuff data mined that was inaccurate. So always take things with a pinch of salt when it comes to CIG. And, you know, whilst I won't tell you what to do with your money, I would be very wary of making financial decisions based on what people think are coming at the year. What's been quite nice is they've been quite clear with things like they talked about the Polaris, and this is the last time to, before the release, this is the last time to buy it at this price before it goes up. You know, we've been warned in the past about price increases. So yeah, I think that's the only reason really to rush out and buy anything, is to avoid having to pay higher. But even then, you know, be careful. No one on earth can speculate on morsels of data like an SE backer. We got it down to an art form, says Firebrand. You are not wrong. An earning game is my recommendation. Socially, words to live by, my friend. Absolutely that. Okay, so I just want to react to something. There was a video, I don't know if it was today or yesterday. When was it? 2 days ago now. Cool. And despite the somewhat, I don't know, dramatic description that he put in the video, there's a video come out by Ollie, and I just wanted to kind of react to it, because I think, I don't think this applies, he's talking about it from a creator perspective, but I don't think this just applies to creators at all. I think every backer knows what he's talking about, not from the I don't know, I want to make videos or I don't want to make videos, or, you know, I go into a room and I have to make videos about this because it's my job. But I think if you exchange the idea of making videos with enjoyment of the game, I think you'll get where I'm coming from.
You know, it's brilliant, isn't it? Being able to just record a video, edit it, and watch it back and go, you know, everyone that watches this video is going to... Oh, no, I screwed up my microphone mid-recording. Everyone who watches this video is going to think I'm complaining or moaning or just out of touch or just completely just off their head, mate. To be British for a moment there. I really want to get something across to you guys. And it's really hard to do as someone... like myself, who's been doing it for 10 years, content creation, and not sound like a whiny little, you know, and I don't want to come across that way, just so you know. I don't want to sit here and complain and moan, and then you guys sit there going, oh man, Ollie's so, like, he's complaining about what? What? Why are you moan? Is how I envision, like, I was watching Matt the video, and I was going, everyone's just going to sit there and go, why is he moaning again? I'm lost. And the crux of this video that I'm trying to get across, and I'm only going to do this once more, because if I do this again and like, and I still think that, I'm just not going to upload it, is I'm kind of done, really, with the whole uploading Star Citizen only, Star Citizen for Star Citizen's sake, you know? I've been away for like 11 days, and it's given me like great space and perspective.
So, this is what I mean about this is great, because it doesn't seem to be scripted, because he's kind of meandering into it. So, sorry, I'm just trying to understand. There's a bit of conversation going on that I'm not kind of getting this. Yeah, I kind of get where he's coming at from here. Is anyone else kind of getting where he's going at already? Is anyone kind of getting what he's driving at here? Because I feel like this is a common experience for most backers. Not just content creators, but backers from that point of view, right? So let's just give him a little bit more time to explain, and we'll go.
And what it's given me is the awareness that actually sometimes I walk in here in a beautiful, secluded, perfectly sound treated and visually appealing office to play video games for a living. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to come in here. I'd rather cut the grass, man. And the reason why I like rethink this and I really wanted to redo it is because I'm like, everyone who watches this video, or most people that watch this video, either go to work or in full-time education, are probably feeling like, dude, that's just having a job, you know? And I'm not saying I deserve a job that I love and I look forward to coming in the morning and I'm happy to do. Sure, that's nice, right? But my point is, it's very hard. and I please beg you to be open-minded, to maybe understand if you don't already. It's very hard to come in and be captivating, entertaining, and engaging and enthusiastic when actually you're none of those things, you know? And I pride myself on authenticity. I pride myself on being real and showing you what I genuinely love.
So this bit might not be the bit that kind of resonates so much because, of course, when we play games, we need the game to be captivating and entertaining and engaging. We don't need to worry about that ourselves. We also don't need to worry about whether or not anyone else is going to enjoy what we're doing, right? Who cares if other people don't enjoy mining or salvaging or bounty hunting or whatever? That's what I want to do and I'm going to enjoy it and everyone else can go poke it, right? Lord knows I have no idea why people enjoy football management sims or The Sims, but they do, so there you go. But I don't need to understand it for other people to play it. I think the key thing, sorry Ollie, I paused that at a really unfortunate point. I think the point that Ollie's driving at is that actually, you know, someone said, is this another I need to take the break from SC? No, this is the interesting thing, is he's saying the opposite, right? What he's saying is that he can't take a break from it because he has a family to support, and this is his income. So he can't just decide to ditch it and pivot off a channel. He can't just decide to go and do something else, because if he loses his audience, he loses everything, right? So, like, I get that, and I'm with that 100%. I think the problem is sometimes is we, you know, and I know people in here will agree. Because I know, talking to some of you, this is the experience that you've had, is that sometimes we play this to death, and because we know what it's going to be, we expect it to be like that now, and people do that and they sour on it and they get more and more frustrated with it. And some of the people that enjoy this game the most are the people that kind of drop in and, you know, do what they do and, you know, and enjoy it for a little while, and then they change off and do other things. I've been doing that recently. You know, there's not been a huge amount of videos from me. I started this year pretty strongly and then it petered out, and I just found that, right? At the moment, there are certain things in the game that I just find incredibly frustrating, so I stay away from them, which is tough because I know that as a result, you know, kind of working on my content, you know, every video is another step towards things being better for you guys, turning out something that's a better product. Every video is an opportunity for me to improve something, and, you know, slightly higher production value, and, you know, practicing community, you know, communicating my passions for things and my thoughts more clearly and more effectively, and, you know, generally turning this into something that people watch and people sit down and go, great, Badgers has turned out another video, I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes to sit down and watch it, or whatever it is, you know, 8 minutes, whatever length. But I'm not in the same position as Ollie, but that's kind of beside the point, is that what we're talking about here is that people burn out on the game, and they, for some reason, feel like, because, and probably, you know, you guys are kind of talking about it in the channel a little bit, is I've pledged X amount of money to this game, I must enjoy it. And what we do is we kind of overexpose ourselves to the games and we get burnt out. Like at the moment, there's a couple of things that I don't want to do in the game. It's kind of left me with not a huge amount of time to do stuff, because I'm looking at going, hey, a lot of the stuff that I do enjoy, all that's going to happen is everything I get from it right now, in terms of like UEC, in terms of rep, in terms of, you know, items and loot and stuff, they're just going to get zeroed out at some point. So right now there's no point, and you know, the PvP mess, the PvP morass that is, you know, the orbital assault stuff and the mining platforms and all that sort of stuff. You know, I've played too much Tarkov and everything else to know that, to think that I'm going to be able to go start to finish through that. You do 95% of the work, and then for the remaining 5%, someone, you know, bush Wookiees it or sits behind a door, waits for you to turn your back, you know, and then steals everything from that point of view. And that's fine, and that's a valid gameplay loop, that's what they're doing. However, just like that's a valid way to play the game, it's also valid to turn around and go, I don't want to engage in that. So that's what I've done. I just think that sometimes, like listening to people talk, in the back of my head, I just go, it would really benefit you just to, like, take 3 months and do something else. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's why this resonated with me more so than a content creator. Ollie and I are not in the same boat. First of all, he's got a crap ton of subs, you know, and a crap ton of income from this, and it's his primary source of income, right? Is his YouTube channel and all the income that generates through sponsorships and everything else, whatever else he does. So that's a big thing for him. I'm not in that boat. And to be honest, like I've always said to you guys, is the minute that the channel starts to really impact on my ability to enjoy my games, which is the way I relax, then, you know, I'm going to have a serious think about whether or not I'm going to do this. He's not in the same position. So it's not from that point of view. I just think that all of us probably at some point or another could go, the last thing I want to do at the moment is play Star Citizen. And I think we've also all probably gone, I'm going to play this anyway because I should. Because, you know, I don't want to play it right now, but my new ship has just been released. I don't want to play it right now, but the ship I pledged for ages has come out. I don't want to play it right now, but if I don't play it, I don't get, you know, the FOMO stuff will be gone. And that's not a healthy place to be. And I've got to echo what Shadow Girl says. I think, you know, when Squadron comes out, hopefully that's refreshing enough for everyone to go and pay attention to that for a while. And obviously, as that sort of stuff ports across, as we get the Idris and all the other stuff that comes across into Star Citizen, that fuels a bit of that as well. And I'm really hoping this year for stability means that, you know, the reason we get annoyed at the game is because we're waiting for things to happen, not because we did the thing and the game didn't recognize that thing and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think we can all recognize, and probably, sorry, Ali, I'll scooch that on a bit, mate,
Sure.
because that's I can't pause it at a good
Well,
place
I
for you,
could-
mate. There you go, that's better. But yeah, no actual progression in the games as far as no matter how impressive it is, technically hard to keep up the same energy as a game 1/10 as complex, but fully developed and complete. Yeah, I've been playing Atomfall, which is good fun. I've been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto recently, and some other older games that will remain nameless. But yes. Jack Mason says the guy was averaging 10,000 views of vid before doing Star Citizen. Despite his sub count, he didn't start getting traction again until he started going balls deep into SC. Now it's too much. No, that's not what he's saying. I think what he's saying is that if you leave it, and I won't go through the whole thing because it's 15 minutes, right? But at the moment, you know, to continue to drive views on YouTube, you know, you've got to kind of keep moving forward. Or, in the case of Star Citizen, often you've got to drive the drama a little bit, right? So there's that. And I don't think he's willing to do. He's not willing to do the drama stuff. He's too positive. And when the game's not moving forward, it's quite tough, right? And I think, you know, there are times when it's really hard work to enjoy this game. I think we've all experienced that. But, you know, it's not about, the reason I share this is not about Ollie's experience. It's reading across to your experience. And, you know, I think all of us sometimes just need a friendly reminder that, you know, no matter how much you have invested in this game, it's okay not to play it for a while. And it's actually a healthy thing to go and do other stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you are going, what's he talking about? I do that anyway. And that's great. And I really hope that you do. But if you don't, and you find yourself getting really, really knocked off with this stuff, that too is a good time to go, do you know what? I'm not going to go nuts on it. I think that's a good thing there. Manny says, I'm a pensioner now, and I split my time between several important things. Naps, beers, socialising, Star Citizen, Squadron 42 someday, No Man's Sky, etc. You need variety to be healthy. 100%. Exactly that. And you know, it's a perfect take on it. Just, you know, people are very quick, I think. You know, it's not directly unconnected to or disconnected from the sunk cost fallacy, right? We convince ourselves that because we put money into this game, we absolutely have to play it. You know, we must play it. We have to play it. We've got to do it now. You know, oh my God, I've spent so much money on this game. I've got to get more time in it. And actually, what you do is you burn yourself out significantly. It was really interesting talking to, I hope you don't mind, Stunner, but I'll mention you, Stunner today, because Stunner's been away from the game for a little while. And he's come back to it. And I've said, you know, does it feel different? And he said, oh yeah, massively. Whereas I think for a lot of us, when we play all the time, because things are moving incrementally to us, we're there for every patch. We see you know, some of us see all the PTU stuff, some of us are in Evo Kati, we see all the changes. What we don't do is walk away from it for an extended period of time, come back and go, okay, what's changed? And actually what we hear time and time again from the people that do take a break is actually stuff has changed, and there is development and there is progress. But sometimes you're too close, you know. I hate to use the old trite analogies, but sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. So that's that. Some patches do be a bit rough, and not a bad time to take a break on those, says Sloth. Well, hello, Sloth. Good to see you. Stunner. I was just about to put that in chat. Thanks for saving all the typing. Yeah, no worries, mate. And hopefully you don't mind. But, yeah. Evocati toast is delicious. Good. Yeah. So that's that. So, yeah, Jag, I'm not, like, I stopped talking about Ollie, about 5 seconds into that little kind of monologue. So it's not Ollie that I'm talking about, it's us, right? Is that, you know, I can point to, and I'm not going to name them because it's kind of outing them, but I can name people within the DGP community and within the wider community who kind of stay connected to Star Citizen longer than they needed to, and they, you know, they get frustrated with it and they keep driving for it, and it gets worse and worse and worse for them. And actually, there's no need. It's like any other game. If you're not enjoying it, don't play it. I used to say to people who were, you know, they used to do their models. They used to do the Warhammer stuff. I'll go and grab one. I used to work for Games Workshop. Okay, and this is related to games, I promise. So I used to, these little plastic guys, right? And you'd have people come in and you'd ask them what they were working on. So you're like, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right. So what are you working on at the minute? Oh well, I'm doing my Space Marines, and you don't have to be a psychic. You don't sound to be enjoying that, mate. Why not? Well, you know, yeah, I'm just sick of painting blue, and you know, I've been working on them for ages, and I could just. All right, well, what would you be working on if it wasn't that? Oh well, I really like those. They look great, dude. Listen to yourself talk, right? You're sticking with that thing because you feel like you need to stick with that thing, and you sound miserable. I asked you what you'd rather be doing, an instant personality change. You sound really excited about that, and I know I'm using this to sell stuff to, or I was using this to sell stuff to people. But what, you know, well, you're just saying that because you want me to buy something. It's like, no, dude, a hobby is a hobby when you enjoy it. When you stop enjoying your hobby, it's a chore. If you're doing something to chill out and relax and have fun, if you're not having fun, there's no point to it anymore, you know? And this is why it's different to what Ollie's talking about, is Ollie's doing this as a job, right? If he doesn't want to do it, tough. Your family relies on you, shut up and make videos. But for us, you know, it's that sort of, you know, it's that sort of thing. And sometimes friends just need to say to friends, dude, have you considered taking a break? Have you considered letting it go for a while? It's that thing. So that's the only reason I wanted to say it, because as I was listening to him, I was relating to what he was saying, but not on the video front. It wasn't on the video thing. Everything that I was thinking about was Star Citizen, not, oh God, I don't want to make videos. And like sometimes I really struggle with it. You know, it pisses me off, and I'm in the middle of recording and something mucks up, and I know that it's going to take a couple of hours to reset it and get everything again. And you know, because I've just flown into a station or some bug and it's left something in the middle of, you know. Oh my God, Shadow Girl, no, not that. Yeah, so I think some people really love to hear the sound of their own voice just griping about something, says Captain Max. Yeah, possibly. I mean, I always talk to you guys, right, about what's going on. And this is the beauty of this, is that I don't have to filter what I say to you guys as much, right? I really value what we've built here in terms of community, and I love chatting with you guys in the Discord link down below. If you're not in there yet, you're more than welcome to come and hang out with us. Like, I've met so many people, and meeting you guys at CitizenCon was incredible. And if every single subscriber had turned around and gone, I want to meet you at CitizenCon, like, I'm up for that. That's the whole point of this. If I make money from this, it goes straight back into the channel. That's the lights, that's the microphone. Someone donated a large chunk of the camera, but that's the camera, and that's the ticket to CitizenCon, and that's all that sort of stuff, right? But I don't have the pressure of, if I don't get this right, I don't, you know, I cease to be able to feed myself and pay for the roof over my head. I don't have that. So I don't have to be as worried about what I say. What I tell you guys is how I'm feeling. I don't have to filter it through the lens of, oh God, I can't hurt my income through this. Does that make sense? So, you know, that's a much more comfortable point to be, I think. And sometimes I think it's the pressure of being honest. And I think the big thing for me, Captain Max, with your comment, is I get it. Some people absolutely do love to hear the sound of their own voice. Some people will make videos about, should I quit? And they have no intention of quitting, for example. You know, I think for me, what I don't want to do is I don't want to sit in it. I don't want people to say, Badges is a white knight, right? Badges just white knight, Star Citizen the whole time, because that's not what I do. That wouldn't be an accurate reflection of me. At the same time, I don't want people to say, Badges just salt farms and he did it, you know, don't go to DGP, because it's just people whinging, right? What I want to do is I want to post a video and you guys go, oh, I wonder what he thinks about that. Because sometimes he's on side with it and sometimes he's not. And, you know, that's sometimes why I am negative about Star Citizen. It's not that I'm love to hear myself whinge. It's not that I love to hear myself be positive. It's not that I like to be, you know, white knighting or anything else like that. I like to call things the way I see it. And I also, if you've been in Discord, you'll know this, I like to challenge the way other people think as well. And just go, okay, how did we get to this conclusion? Like, what evidence, what facts, you know, what did you base this on, other than I heard it from someone who said, right? So it's that sort of stuff. So, definitely off, Stunner, 100%, you know. White Knight, why are you bringing race into this? Says Shadow Girl. Oh God, here we go. So going in all in on streaming is a big gamble. Max, 100%, never a truer word. My first purchase in 2013, says Manny, was an Andromeda, and I'd CCU'd it to a Phoenix just to get the piano. I tend to do illogical things. Nice. But it's your hobby, so there's that. Yeah, so that's that. So Jack Mason says, no, a lot of other guys have the pressure of doing jobs to provide that are mundane and physically demanding and not playing video games for YouTube. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm very lucky in that I'm in that, and the only bit of that isn't true is that it's not physically demanding. It is mundane at times, but I love it. I love what I do. It's that sort of stuff. Monster, hello buddy, good to see you. So yeah, I think that's that. Um, yeah, when the Perseus comes out, I will be living Star Citizen, 100%. And that's my worry, is that the Perseus comes out and I'm like, ugh, the last thing I want to do is load up this game. But that's kind of it, right? Is that you kind of got to balance the always positive with a little bit of reality, I think. And I do try to be positive about the project. Part of that is because I backed it and I want it to succeed. Part of it is because I wouldn't want the money that I've put into this game to ultimately go nowhere and, you know, not even be used in a finished product. I mean, arguably all the game we put into online stuff goes nowhere because we have nothing to show for it at the end, other than the experiences and the friends we made along the way. But, you know, to be honest, when I started this, I've been thinking about for a little while now making a video about why I backed and what attracted me to Star Citizen. Because all at once I think it is and it isn't the same as everyone else. I think what attracted me was probably the same as a lot of people. I think my attitude going in, judging from what people said, more to the point, the lack of what people say, might have been a little bit different to a lot of people. So I think that might be worth doing, and maybe I'll do that one day. But I think that's the point, is that for me, this is all about being honest. Is I don't want to come on and put a persona. I'm not a Dr. Disrespect. I'm not a caricature streamer. I don't come on and play a character. What you get when you talk is me. And that makes it so much easier, because gaming and community, when I moved away from my friends a good few years ago now, almost 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, I moved away from friends and family and went to live with the woman that became my wife. And I went to live in an area that I'd never really visited as a kid, never lived anywhere near, didn't know anyone in at all. So all of my connections with my friends, and to an extent with my family, was online. So rather than meet my friends and go to the pub or go to the beach or, you know, do whatever it was we were going to do, we would play games online. So my experience with, you know, gaming and stuff has not been what a lot of people see, which is, oh, gaming's antisocial. It's like, are you kidding? I kept contact with so many of my friends. I'm still in contact with people that I grew up with, school, primary school, before the age of 12. I'm still in contact with them now, and I'm turning 42 this year. So, you know, like, I'm very lucky, and a lot of that is because we have shared interests around gaming and tabletop gaming and all that sort of stuff. So we have reasons to come together multiple times a year, right? So for me, I love this stuff, and it's part of my hope for DGP is that people who maybe struggle to socialise or don't have that many friends, DGP can be a home away from home for them. They can come in, they can spend time with us. That's always what I've wanted. Is that because that's what gaming is great at. You know, you go and you meet people online and you have great gaming experiences, and then they turn into, you know, meeting people in person at CitizenCon or clan meetups or guild meetups or outfit meetups, whatever it is that you're doing, and you form friends for life all the way around the world. You know, it would strike me that people would find it a lot harder to be utter shitbags to each other if you had a bunch of friends from that country. Yeah, we can all think of countries where we think, I'm not sure, you know, but I think if a bunch of, and I know we're about to go really left of field here, but I think if a bunch of Palestinian kids grew up gaming and being gaming buddies with a bunch of Israeli friends, I think the dynamic in the Middle East would change rather significantly, because it's really hard to be evil to people that you know and admire and are friends with and all that sort of stuff, right? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. And maybe we'll make it back to Star Citizen. We went from Fleet Week to the Middle East and back again. We've been all over on this stream. Kind of crazy. So yeah, apart from the Welsh, you're just weird. Matthew, looking at you. So yeah. So I'm a Note But Evil. Welfare Badger, I think streaming is a sure thing in Perseus. Absolutely. If the project implodes, it'll be Shouts of Shame, says Shadow Girl. Yep, that's it. When Star Citizen goes VR, my life will be over. I take the blue pill, Matrix, not Viagra, says Firebrand. I mean, why not both? And then that's exactly what Matthew said. Oh God, Matthew, if I'm making the same comments as you, I just need to take myself out back and have a word with myself. So yeah, originally didn't look back, so shall I go? Because the project scope versus its delivery time on Kickstarter was ridiculous, but later backed it. Originally didn't back, so shall I go? Later backed it because their progress had created a playable game. Exactly that. Gaming is one of the best social methods for long distance. Yeah, absolutely. I would argue the best by far, right? It gives you not only the ability to mingle with people, but it gives you shared objectives to overcome and really funny, scary, challenging, insert whatever game that you're doing, things to objectives to work toward and overcome together. I can't think of anything else that does that over a long distance thing. It just doesn't exist, right? So yeah, unless they're PvPing each other, this is Firebrand. Yeah, let's look that. That's that. Don't lie, sir, at Badgers. You started streaming it, your master plan to spread 40k to the entire world. I mean, I feel like GW are doing a really good job, but I'm going to get those Amazon tribes at some point. Stop talking politics before YouTube comes for your channel. Absolutely not. Fight me. I can. So yeah. Just not Counter-Strike, says Boozy. Boozy, you're probably not right. Or someone starts teabagging, starts the next war. Yeah, I feel like I might have made a little bit of a mistake going down that route. But yeah, bar citizens are fun. I need to fix my vehicle first to travel more. Yeah, and I think that was that I really liked about the first Citizen Con I went to in 2019 was rocking up to the bar citizen that they'd organised the night before, and just meeting people and just I didn't know anyone. Just like standing there watching what's going on. You catch someone's eye and they'll be like, "Hi, like, back along, what's your favourite ship?" You just get into these random, organic conversations with people and start talking, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, Blam Smith. Good evening, buddy. Totally agree on gaming unifying the world. Something that sporting events have done in the past, but in person. Yeah, absolutely that. I've got so much time for gaming. I think it's. It's just a great way to get together, meet people. There's people here that, Khan and I have met multiple times. Dell and I met at Star Citizen and then at CitizenCon and then shortly afterwards. And anyone else that will turn up, may turn up. Can't wait to see any and or all of them. I just really enjoy this sort of stuff. It all started with World of Warcraft, of all things. Meeting my World of Warcraft guildmates. Just a very strange experience, because I'd never met up with anyone from online before. Met up with a couple who was the guild leader and his wife, who had kids at the time. I was still in the Navy. Met up with them and just had the most kind of wholesome, heartwarming interaction with them. Met them, lovely people. Still message back and forth time and again now, and haven't played a game with them in probably a decade. So yeah, what did you main in WoW? Dwarf Paladin. Dwarf is an ongoing theme with me, but yeah, Dwarf Paladin. I daren't type /played because I don't want to know how much of my life that character has eaten. But it's a lot. So yeah, diggy hole. Absolutely. Dwarf Paladin. All the way across. Okay, so just a couple of other things then to have a look at, I guess, whilst we're here. So, taking a look at the roadmap roundup. We've had more stuff added to the 4.1 release view. Obviously, some of this has been committed, or released, sorry. We've got a couple things added. So Space Combat Mission Patrol, adding a patrol mission that takes the player through a series of points. At each waypoint, players can run into a variety of objectives and encounters. And I think that's really cool. And this stuff is long overdue, right? This stuff, in my mind, should have been a staple of the space stuff for a long time. Because this isn't just fly to a waypoint, shoot people, fly to a waypoint, shoot people. The way they're advertising this is different encounters and stuff, and I can't wait till we can start interacting with the AI and go on like rescues and getting people, out of, ships that have been disabled and all that sort of stuff. That's going to be great. Adding an ambush mission that tasks player to set up a trap in an asteroid cluster and ambush high-value target ships as they pass by. Great. Sounds like there's the option there to be both legal and unlawful. That sounds like good fun. Space combat mission, UEE training missions. Adding a suite of UEE training missions that teaches players, I'll zoom in a bit because you probably can't read that very well, that teach players about various ship combat scenarios, introducing new challenges as the player progresses. That's this bit up here. Yep, interesting. And then a redacted space combat mission, which normally means it's going to be part of the story for the next part of the patch. So yeah, kind of exciting. Manny, bar citizens, some drinks, and start comparing pictures of your SC stuff. I still have my Mark III Connie Andromeda model in a display case. Nice. Like that. UE Navy and UE Marines should be playable factions. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. One of the ideas that kind of attracted me to Star Citizen is they were talking about the option of, with Squadron 42, sorry if you can hear that clicking. I seem to think you can actually hear that, but I'll do something about that in a bit. Is that the idea was that you would play Squadron 42 if you wanted to, and then muster out into the Star Citizen universe, and that's a really cool idea. I like that a lot. The idea that you do your military service, as it were, your enlistment period or whatever, your return of service, and then you muster out into the Star Citizen universe. You didn't have to do that. They always said that you could go in and just go into the Star Citizen universe anyway, but it was one of the ideas that they had, and that's kind of cool. I like that. I also like that idea as UE Navy and UE Marines is obviously the problem with that. And they'd say this about Squadron 42, right? They were asked why Squadron 42 wasn't more open world, and they got it bang on. It's like, if you just go off and do what you want, you're AWOL. If you just go off and do what you want, the military have a problem with that. Funnily enough, you can't just go, oh well, I'm going to go on an adventure for 2 weeks and just leave my unit, and obviously that's bad. And I think it's the same thing there. But I really like the idea of there being an instant action mode. So rather than being your own character, you can just jump into something like what Theatres of War was supposed to be. And you jump into some, marine action, and it's part of some ongoing war somewhere or some scenario. I really like that idea. I think that's a kind of cool notion. And maybe that's something they add in the future, but we'll see. I want criminal heists where I have to sneak into a heavily guarded facility to steal the Bengal plans. Like that idea. And what I know people go, oh, that's never going to happen. What I like about that is the idea of the resource network is absolutely angling for that to happen. Because we know that the resource network isn't just going to be ships. They've said multiple times that ground facilities as well will work on it, which means they'll have things like power plants and radars and all that sort of stuff. So at a distribution centre and you want to get your ship in and not shot up by turrets, go knock out their radars, go disconnect the power. There's loads of that sort of stuff. Rogue 42 says Blamsmith. Nice. Absolutely that. Would be perfect for those distribution centre locations. Exactly, Sloth. Exactly that. I want to play as Tavarin or Vandal players. That's probably going to come down the line if we get to play space races. Alien races. But yeah, being in the military in SC would limit what we can do. You're in the military and you can't just leave and go somewhere. But funnily enough, exactly what we've just said. Exactly that, yeah. Betray the UE and Squadron 42 and come into SC with increased Vandal reputation. I don't see them being, any more sympathetic to people who betray the UE than people who support the UE. I think we're all just fodder for them. Historic battles and arena commander. Exactly that. Yeah. Like the Kobayashi Maru. Anything like that. There's so much stuff that they can potentially do with it. There's a lot of things that they can muck around and play with and see how that works. And maybe I think this is why I kind of liked the idea of the Theatres of War, not necessarily from our point of view, but I think it was a really nice bridging step from Squadron into Star Citizen. All that remains to be seen now is what state Star Citizen is when Squadron releases. I really hope it's more stable, and I really hope it's the point where we can go, yeah, join now, absolutely. 18 months ago, right? So here's hoping. Here's hoping. So yeah, so that's the new stuff, and then pretty much everything else there was added to released, and then the progress tracker. Yeah, I do you know what? I tend to not even now read through the progress tracker anymore. There's just not a lot of point. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Can I? There we go, that's what I'm after. Okay, so here we go. Little bit of controversy then for the last 15 minutes of the stream. Don't know if you've seen this already, but here it is. Just for the jigs and gigs, I'm just going to go and grab myself and move myself to the other side again, because, yeah, all the text is on that side for one reason. So, they can't keep getting away with this. Star Citizen has now raised over 800 million after 13 years, and it's still in alpha. Bless him. For those that don't know, Rich Stanton was the editor of Kotaku UK for 3 years before it went under. And he was still the editor when it went under. So, just saying, right? You might want to take what this guy says with a pinch of salt. But yeah, easy click articles, essentially exactly that. Obligatory 800 million. What was really interesting is when we first jumped the 800 million, like there was just crickets for a couple of days, and I was like, oh, maybe people have gotten over this. But there's that. I wonder what the reward for finishing Squadron 42 will be with NSC, since I doubt the original ideas are doable. I can't remember what the original ideas are, but, that's it. So, yeah. With the start of 2025 brought a familiar refrain, with Cloud Imperium's CEO Chris Roberts saying, we are closer than ever to realising a dream that many have said is impossible. Which is to say, actually releasing the thing. No, that's not what people said was impossible. What they said was impossible was including all of the scope that he'd been talking about. But, yeah, take the article with a bit of hot sauce, this shall go 100%. So, yeah. Star Citizen began as a purely crowdfunded project, though for years now, they've funded the game through microtransactions, paid access to the alpha, subscriptions, merch, and prohibitively expensive spaceships. See, this is the bit that I don't get, right? Just the application of logic. Prohibitively expensive, but somehow they've raised $802 million. So prohibitively expensive to who? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everyone can afford it, but that's not the same as being prohibitively expensive, right? Prohibitively expensive compared to what? What hobby are we? Yeah, calling the ships microtransactions. Lol. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so, the project has from the start attracted both starry-eyed believers and die-hard cynics. The former keeping the faith that CIG will eventually deliver a transcendent space MMO. I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm just gonna go and find this image while we talk. I was on a Facebook group a little while ago, and someone had just posted a picture from Star Citizen. So I went and loaded it up, and I was like, well, okay, what is this? And it was this. Right? Just take a moment, right? For most games, that's art. For most games, they don't even look as good as that on the box. on the box. I say on the box, on the concept art. Planet cards look amazing. Exactly that. Right? That just looks absolutely incredible. This is the only game that still, I mean, we've been playing it. I backed in 2017? I found it in 2013. Backed in 2017. Haters gonna hate. Exactly that. My stream thing is buffering. Is everyone seeing it all right? Are you all still hearing me okay? Is it just my end that's going funny? Hopefully, just let me know in chat. Let me know. All good. Good. That's fine. In that case, that's fine. So this image, like, this is one of the only games that I've ever played where regularly, and I mean, if I'm playing this during the week, like once a week at least, I actually have to stop what I'm doing. Not just go, oh, that's pretty. I actually kind of let go of everything and just look at what's going on the screen and go, holy cow, that's gorgeous. Right? So, and I know it's not just about looks, but it's a massive part of it. It's it's a significant it is a massively significant game, and yeah, okay. I mean, maybe not the fairest comparison in the world, but there's Starfield for comparison. Thank you, Shadow Girl. Can we just for a moment, can we just what? Do you know what I mean? Single player, multiplayer, massively multiplayer now. What? You know, it's tough, right? It's kind of you gotta begin to wonder where some of this is coming from. So yeah, Star Citizen's made over $100 million every year since 2022, and there's little reason to expect that to slow down. The backers for this one you sense are all in either way. Well, I mean, yeah. This is the bit that I don't get, right? If you're willing to spend over $60 to $100 for a game, of course you're all in. All in on a varying scale. But you'd spend $250. It's probably more than you've ever spent on any other game, bar some ridiculous collector's edition box. Right? That's that. So, CIG has at least answered the question of whether the game even exists. 4.0 was released in December 2024. I think you find we've been playing it for a little longer than that, guys, despite regular editions. The alpha that began nearly a decade ago is far from feature complete. Wait, I thought this was vaporware. Wasn't this vaporware, guys? I thought Star Citizen was vaporware. What's going on? This is... It was vaporware. So it's not vaporware anymore. Is that what we're saying? You see what I mean, right? It's all a bit silly. So yeah. The rain and storms during sitcom was what made me go, dear God, this is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Kingdom of Games, 100%. I'm constantly hovering over my print screen button on Star Citizen. I play 1440p native, very high graphics on an OLED screen. It's astonishing fidelity. Yep, my name says SC makes pretty things. Good gameplay, not so much. You're not wrong. Gameplay's getting better. I think what helps it are those organic moments that you get in most MMOs that have a PvP element. Is not so much what they've scripted, but the kind of I don't want to say emergent. It sounds like a trope, but it is the emergent moments that come out, the random encounters between players and all that sort of stuff that work really well. So yeah, I really wish they'd make movies out of the game engine, says Matthew. I have other more complete spec games, not to this fidelity. Contrast and compare to this. Yep, exactly that. Starfield is a bad looking game at all, but the difference of generations can apart 100%. I often park my Taurus and just look out of the window as what is happening outside. It's a legit game loop. Yeah. Starfield deserves some credit for the graphics. Closest game to SC out there. Yeah, and that is absolutely not me dunking on Starfield, although it seems like it is. I actually quite enjoyed Starfield when I played it through, although I've still never been through the what's it called at the end, because I stopped just short of doing so. But yeah, this is what happens when people develop games. They have the idea of the game that they want and they develop around it, not iterating on what's already gone before. That's not what's happening here. And that's kind of where the scope creep comes into, I guess. It's not all about that. Badges, I have an idea. Ask a donator to take a trip to Monarchs and count the pixels. They would still be there when the game actually released, I think. Shinobi Trip. Hello, buddy. I've got friends that have spent more money on gacha games than I have on SC. And I have the gold shooter game. Of shame. Absolutely that. Main story killed Starfield for me. And load screens that. Exactly that. Back in the day, it was EVE Online that blew me away and set me on a path of being obsessed with sci-fi and space games. That's it. And I'm really, really looking forward to that exploration that just happens. So you go to a location, you find something, it leads you to something else. You find something, it leads you to something else. Then something else happens. You know, you attack, you get attacked by a ship, you destroy it, or you soft death it, and then you find it's got valuable cargo on board. So now you're taking that on, and you know, maybe it's got some really good components that you've taken on, and now you need to get that safe. But then you break, and now you've got to, you know, repair your ship, and that sort of thing where it just happens, and then the story happens organically, not necessarily led by the nodes from mission to mission to mission, is one of the big reasons I'm kind of excited about Star Citizen. Manny says, if you bought a game for 50 or more, then spent 10 to 15 a month to play, after a few years you'd have spent thousands in an MMO, and I used to play several MMOs at the same time. I don't want to think about how much I've given Blizzard. So yeah. Homeworld and Freelancer formed Space. Yeah, Freelancer 100% for me. Freelancer was absolutely one of the games that got me there. Excuse me. Eve still looks great. Eve does look good. You're right. So yeah, there's some really nice kind of nice moments that come in from this that this is not picking up. You know, it just the interesting things here. In 2020, he said, I can promise you the gameplay I described is not a pipe dream, nor will it take 10 or 20 years to deliver. I think that's the only thing they've got right in this. I think we're still going to be waiting for Star Citizen 1.0 in 2030. You've heard it here first. That's what I think we are. But I think that's the only thing that this article got right, other than the factual funding and when stuff happened. That's it. Eve does look great, but I've never felt like I'm actually in the game, like SC achieves. Yeah, absolutely. I was so bummed when that stopped. The Earth and Beyond. No, I didn't. I never played that one. I still quite like the idea of playing Star Wars Galaxies, but there's that. If it comes out in 2035, I'd eat my hat. We'll hold you to that, Matthew. At the Citizen Con that year, at the launch party, we'll watch you eat a hat. We get to pick the hat. I'm going to go for a bike helmet. You need to eat a bike helmet. So yeah. The best moments I've had in SC, says Blounsmith, have been helping players or being helped by other people. No missions of combat involved. One of my favourite moments was, I think it was Khan and Gaucho. We were doing a mission at Ghost Hollow, and a Redeemer came down to attack us. Unfortunately, I crashed out. But there's that. Is it my video froze? Oh yes, so it did. Thank you. There we go. Ta-da! Okie dokie. So that, as they say, is that. If you're new here or you haven't yet, I'm amazed actually how many people aren't subscribed. It still means I'm reaching a wider audience than just the subscribers, so feel free. Link to the Discord is in the description below if you want to come and spend some time with us. If I'm ever in there or people are ever in there, trust me, if I don't want to speak to people on Discord, I won't be in a room that you can get to me. But absolutely that. You know, you'd be more than welcome. I'd absolutely love to have you, and I know the rest of the community would as well. Don't know what the next video will be or when it's out yet. I've got a very busy, basically next month working, and it's stumping my, you know, by the time I finish in the evenings, I am battered, and like you guys know, I don't want to release a video unless I'm happy with it. So it may well be a talking head video, much like this. It may not be. We'll see. Rather than kind of the higher production content stuff that I want to be able to doing. So yeah. Badges, what capital do you want to run if they all came out? Ooh. I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna make you come back next week, Matthew, for the answer to that one. Yeah. I have a feeling it would be something like the Argus that gets absolutely chopped in half by the Vandal Kingship, because something with those sorts of turrets on it would just float my boat. The Perseus Mark Magic. Arcane DGR, welcome in. Sorry, bud, you've just caught us at the end, but lovely to have you, my friend. Good to see you all. Next week could be a Who Let Badgers Out kind of video gameplay. Oh dear God. Right, if anyone can remix that song to Who Let the Badgers Out, ooh, 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 or whatever sound badgers make, that would be absolutely superb. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.